Hey everyone, welcome to this series. We are going to run a full stack application using Docker. We're going to first run it locally on our local machine. It could be a laptop or a desktop or anything. Then we're going to boot up a virtual machine in the cloud and run our application with Docker in the virtual machine. Now I'm going to assume that you have Docker installed on your computer. I also expect that you have some experience creating basic full stack applications, preferably in JavaScript-based frameworks like React and Express, as well as being familiar with databases, namely MongoDB. So without further ado, let's get started. So I want to first show you what our application does. So we are going to run it in our local environment. So let's say npm start over here. And in the backend, in the server, npm run dev. Now all we're doing in this application is adding users with name and date of birth and displaying them here where it says nothing to display. And there it is. So there are two API calls that are being made in our app. One to get all the data and one to add new data. And when we refresh, we can see that our data is still there. So let's see what these two requests do and follow them from the front end to the back end. Let's stop our application and then go into the back end. Stop our application here. So the first request is over here. It's the GET request, and we're going into localhost 5000. And the other request is a POST request, and this is the request that's responsible for adding the new users. Now, one thing I will do right now is, because from here on out we're going to use Docker to run this application, we're not really going to be using localhost 5000, because part of our project is using Nginx, which is going to act as our server, and it's going to handle our routes. So let's get rid of this part right here. So now let's go to the back end and see how these requests are being handled. We're going to go to our server, get out of our client side and go to the server, into the app.js. So this app.js file is the file that our Express server is running, and it tells our server what port this app is going to be running on, or at least what port the back end of our application is going to be running on. Here is where our API requests are being handled. Now, as you can see, we have two separate functions that are actually delegated to take care of these requests. We call them controllers and import them from a separate file. The purpose of doing this is to separate your code into different parts to make it more organized and easier to debug, which is what the MVC pattern or model view controller pattern is about. So let's see what these controller functions are doing. So they are inside the controllers directory, and here they are. So the first function, which is getPeople, talks to the database to get all the users. And the second function takes the name and date of birth that we gave it from the front end and tells the database to store this information. As you can see here, in order for us to talk to the database, we have to import from the models folder. So let's go check it out. So this is what we call the schema, which is where we tell the database what type of data it's going to be working with. And all we have for this simple application is name and date of birth, and they are both of type string. So that's all I wanted to show you in the first part of the series. I didn't want to make this video too long, but in the next video we are going to run the application locally using Docker. So stay tuned, and I'll see you in the next video.